How's it going? Welcome to the No DQ live recap of AEW Dynamite for March the 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 2021. And on this live video stream, I will also be giving my thoughts on the WWE NXT show, some of the highlights from NXT. Stay tuned for that. I will be talking about NXT after I get through Dynamite. Let's get started with Dynamite. The spoilers for Dynamite did leak in advance. Other than the main event, the Reddit user Space Force One somehow continues to manage to get spoilers for AEW Dynamite, although Space Force One did not leak the result of the main event match, which was nice. Very nice of Space Force One to not do that. Stinky Shardy Sharts left a $1 super chat. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. On that note, let's get to the recap of Dynamite. We started the show with Cody Rhodes versus Penta, and they started fighting right off the bat. There's some bad blood between these two. Cody's shoulder was taped up during this match to sell the attack from Penta and all the punishment from that ladder match at Revolution. Penta was feeling the St. Patrick's Day spirit. He even put on a St. Patrick's Day hat during the match, but then things got more serious. Cody hit a Hurricane Rana off the top, and Cody went to town on Penta. Cody hit a Canadian Destroyer. He hit a Cody Cutter. Penta was able to kick out of that. Cody hit the Crossroads. Penta kicked out again. And then yet another kick out when Cody hit the Vertebreaker. Eventually, Penta was able to get back into it, but then all of a sudden, Cody rolled him up and scored the victory over a very game Penta who kicked out of numerous moves from Cody. Pretty much everything Cody could throw at him, and it took a roll-up for Cody to finally beat Penta. Gary says in the chat, riffed off to say this was the most amazing show from all promotions this week. MJF becoming a bigger star before very eyes. The women's match was phenomenal. This show was more exciting than Fastlane. Well, there you have it. Gary was very impressed with this show. After the match was over, Penta immediately attacked Cody, went after the shoulder, and then the Nightmare family ran down to make the save, although one person did not come out right away. QT Marshall, of course, turning heel. He very much took his time coming down to the ringside area. We had a backstage promo with the Young Bucks. They were interrupted by Don Callis, and Don Callis had a special t-shirt for the Bucks' dad while he's recovering from the attack a few weeks ago. It was a t-shirt that said, "Do not slap when kicking," which of course is a reference to WWE because that's what AEW does. They love to reference WWE and take shots because they know that their fan base loves it and the people that don't like AEW get pissed off. So you work both sides against each other. Business 101 as far as the Bucks are concerned. It's worked for them up to this point and they continue to do their thing. Stinky Shardy Sharts says, say my whole name, damn it. Maybe for $50, I'll say your whole name on the next super chat. So we had the reference to the t-shirt, and basically Don Callis said he wants to see the old Young Bucks back, the New Japan Young Bucks back. They aren't elite anymore. Unlike Kenny Omega, who is still elite and is not only elite, but he is a god. And the Bucks now, they're just another tag team living off of their name. Nice little promo here from Callis. We had Jade Cargill versus Danny Jordan. Not much to say about it. Basically a squash match. After the match, there was a little tease of a feud continuing between Jade and Red Velvet. Red Velvet was watching the match and Jade got in her face and officials had to keep them separate. I'm guessing we'll see a singles match with them at some point. We had MJF with his new group come to the ring for a promo. And there was even a reference to how this faction may have begun like a year ago when MJF and Shawn Spears were playing cards at ringside right when the pandemic began. And we're right about at the 1-year anniversary of when AEW had the first empty arena show at Daly's Place. Crazy how it's already been a year. So Tully Blanchard was first to talk. He recapped the events of last week. And then MJF had his chance to talk. He said he is Judas now. And he made fun of Chris Jericho, made fun of Jericho's hairline, made fun of Jericho's pecs, and said that his plan all along was to replace the Inner Circle with a better group, which he referred to as the Pinnacle. That is the official name of the group, not the Outer Circle, but the Pinnacle. He put over all the Pinnacle members, FTR, Shawn Spears, Wardlow as bodyguard, and himself, of course, because that would be a very MJF thing to do. He said he's only 24 and he's got many years left ahead of him. The Pinnacle, they will be taking every title. And he finished off by using his line, he's better than Jericho, and Jericho knows it. Nice promo here. Hit all the points he needed to hit. No Inner Circle this week, which I liked. Let them sell the beatdown from last week. Good stuff here to hold them off the show and not have them show up and chase the Pinnacle out of the ring. I did like that. And then later in the show, we had the Pinnacle in the backstage area, and they basically took over the old Inner Circle locker room, which was another nice touch. I like that. We had Matt Hardy Incorporated, Matt Hardy, Private Party, Butcher, and Blade against the Jurassic Express and Bear Country in a 10-man tag team match, which quickly broke down with everybody brawling in the ring, and Allie was out there. She took some shots at Jungle Boy on the outside when the referee was distracted. Eventually, Luchasaurus got the hot tag, and he cleaned house, took care of everybody, but then things went downhill for the good guys. There were arguments. There was dissension amongst the ranks. Bear Country arguing with Jurassic Express. Heels were able to regain the advantage. And for some reason, all the faces were completely destroyed. I'm not sure what happened to them, but they were all basically dead on the outside of the ring. And back in the ring, you had Marco Stunt, who was the only man left standing, and he got taken out with a gin and juice. And then Matt Hardy asked to be tagged in. Matt got in the ring and finished off Marco Stunt with the twist of fate. Match was okay, but I just didn't understand how Luchasaurus and all the other guys were just completely laid out, like for a couple of minutes. And then, of course, when the bell rings and the match is over, they're magically back to their feet. Little hard to suspend disbelief on that one, but match was fine for what it was. TJS with a $5 super chat says, what are your thoughts? Oh boy, here we go. So TJS going off topic. He says, what are your thoughts on Booker T's comments about AEW? I think he's a smart guy and is correct. Main event was good, but can't do lights out every week. Very good point, TJS. We'll talk more about the lights out match. I'll give my thoughts on that, what you just said. And I'll talk about what Booker T said at the end. So stay tuned. And if I forget, somebody in the chat room remind me. That's what happens when TJS goes off topic. Hashtag stick to the topic, and everybody shame TJS. Now, as far as Nick Lavin's comment about the 8-man tags becoming too much, I think it's because AEW is trying to get as many people on the show as possible. The thing is now they really do have a bloated roster. They have so many people under contract, and, that's why we get these 8-man, 10-man tag team matches, which I'm fine with. But yeah, if you do it every single week, it can get a little old after a while. We had a backstage promo with Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston to hype up their match with Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. Basically, they made fun of the Good Brothers. Moxie said he wasted his money on Talkin' Shop-A-Mania. What's Talkin' Shop-A-Mania? I know what it is, but I'm pretending to be a casual fan who only watches TNT. Like, what the hell is Talkin' Shop-A-Mania? I get it, it's a little inside reference, but, you know, they expect their audience to watch all of the internet products that the wrestlers produce, whether it's BTE or Talkin' Shop-A-Mania. So yeah, if you're a diehard wrestling fan, you watch everything, you can appreciate these references. But if you're a casual fan watching, you're probably like, what? What is he even talking about? And you're like, well, I don't get this. Change the channel. But nonetheless, you know, it was fine. It's catered to the niche audience. I get it. I'm sounding like Virtue and Robbie Vice now, but that's kind of how I feel too when I watch these segments. You know, Vince Russo did the same thing, and everybody was saying Russo was horrible. He killed WCW. Russo would always write in these little references to something that only 5% of the audience would understand. But of course, with AEW, most of their audience, they're the diehard wrestling fans. So you could say AEW caters to the majority of their audience. So it's kind of different from WCW, where WCW actually had a lot of casual fans that they ran off by doing these kinds of references. So enough of that rant. Back to the segment here. Eddie Kingston was making fun of the Too Sweet, and he said, you know, he saw that kind of thing on TNT many years ago. I liked that line. I thought that was pretty funny. I mean, that's how I always see it. Like, everyone loves the Bullet Club and whatnot, and I'm like, well, they're just ripping off the NWO. Like, what's so great about it? But, you know, people love it. They do the Too Sweet and whatnot. All right, so now we had Christian Cage interviewed backstage. He talked about how he is there in AEW because he makes wrestling better. He's not just a workhorse, he's the workhorse. And the only spot that interests him is Kenny Omega's spot. And Omega is on borrowed time. However, Christian wants to earn his opportunity, and he is in AEW to cement his legacy. Promo was good. No problem with it. Established why he's there. He's going to outwork everybody and be the best and win the championship. Gotcha. Good stuff. We had the Good Brothers attacking Eddie Kingston during Kingston's entrance for the tag team match. And Moxley ran in. We had a huge brawl, but Moxley got laid out with the Magic Killer on the outside. They worked over Kingston for a while. Moxley eventually managed to get the hot tag. And after several minutes, Moxley was able to pin Carl Anderson with the inside cradle. And then after the match, Anderson and Gallows attacked Moxley. Omega arrived with a steel chair. Kingston attempted to save his friend, but the numbers were against him. And then they hit the Magic Killer on Kingston. Then the chair was wrapped around Kingston's leg. Anderson jumped off the ropes and stomped on it. And then they were going to take the chair and wrap it around Moxley's neck and do the same thing. But then we had the Bucks run down to stop this. This was going too far. The heels, the bad guys, wanted to Too Sweet the Bucks, but the Bucks basically turned them down. And then Moxley finally got to his feet and cleared the ring. Everybody took off, and Moxley's music played and whatnot. Good match here, like the post-match angle. Solid stuff. We had Tony Schiavone talking to Sting and Darby Allin in an interview on the stage. I feel like every week there's a Tony Schiavone talks to Sting interview segment. This is something that's maybe getting a little old. They got to do the same type of interview segment with the interruptions every week. You know, they're doing it a little too much in my opinion. So Darby was talking in this segment. He said that since he won the title in November, he has only defended it 3 times. And as far as he's concerned, it's a joke. He wants to be a defending champion. He said he wants to pay tribute to Cody Rhodes by doing an open challenge to any member of the Dark Order. Lance Archer, who's back to being a heel, interrupted and said that this should be his time all the time. And he called Allin the biggest indie-rific joke the industry has ever seen. Another line to pop the diehards, the niche fan base, by calling him indie-rific. Jake then called Allin a weenie boy, which I thought was a funnier insult. Then he talked to Sting, and this reminded me of WCW in '92, saying that Sting's going to get what's coming to him. And they took their leave, and that's when Team Taz arrived. But before Taz could say anything, Brian Cage grabbed the mic and basically praised Sting. Said that he actually respects Sting despite all the drama and the feud that they've had. He does consider Sting to be the icon. Team Taz was very upset about this, so I guess now we got a Brian Cage babyface turn, or at least a tease of a babyface turn. Caleb Jacobs, the one and only, with a $3 super chat, thank you for that, says Sting needs to be TNT champion at least once. I'm not sure about that, but I suppose it could happen. Not sure it really needs to happen. I think, he came back, had his match. It's all good. He can do a couple big matches here and there, but don't know if he needs to be winning any titles. Gary says it was actually a tribute to Brody. Okay, gotcha. Because he said the greatest TNT champion of all time. See, I thought he was talking about Cody because he talked about how he's not a fighting champion, and Cody was the guy doing the open challenges every week. So I thought it was a tribute to Cody, but maybe you're right, it was a tribute to Brody too. Maybe it was to both of them. Hamp Connor with a $2 super chat says, let's just forget about Scorpio Sky last week. Well, they did show a little video of him, a recap of what happened, so they didn't just completely ignore it. TJS with a $3 super chat. Thank you for that, TJS. I appreciate it. TJS, one of the more critical AEW viewers in the chat room, says AEW cult complains about Brock Lesnar not defending. What about Darby Allin? Well, at least Darby is referencing it. Darby is saying, look, I need to be defending the title more often. He was busy with all the crap that was going on with Team Taz. We had Rey Fenix versus Angelico. Nice match here, pretty good stuff here. Rey Fenix picked up the win. Nothing too noteworthy. I think it was just basically a showcase match for Rey Fenix. We had an interview with Miro. Oh man, I feel so bad for Miro because now that Jim Cornette has referred to Miro as Bluto, the villain from the Popeye cartoons and the comics, I cannot unsee it. Miro is always going to be Bluto from now on, the big bumbling fool that gets outwitted by the superhero good guy. Oh man, that's brutal. Jim Cornette he buried Miro even worse than AEW has. It's awful. Oh, Miro. Anyways, he doesn't want a rematch with Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor, and who can blame him? Kip does, however. He's still mad about the wedding being ruined, and Miro was just not really up for this, and he basically told Kip Sabian the worst thing you can do in your career is have your wife at ringside. The man knows. The man knows how these relationships go, both on screen and off screen. And some good advice from Miro, I must say. But still, I cannot unsee Bluto with Miro now. Jim Cornette, he put the dirt on the coffin. I mean, Miro was pretty much a flop in AEW, and now the dirt has been put on the coffin as far as I'm concerned. I'll always think of Miro as Bluto from now on. Anyways, regarding the Dark Order Open Challenge, -1 wanted to step up to the plate, but they were like, you know what, maybe in a decade you could step up to the plate. And it was Long John Silver who ended up taking the challenge for next week. So he'll be facing Darby Allin for the TNT Championship. And we had our main event, which was Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker in an unsanctioned Falls Count Anywhere match. Rebel was there using the crutch right off the bat. Britt managed to hit an air raid crash on the staging area. And then Britt made the mistake of turning her back to Thunder Rosa. Rosa used a chair on Baker. And then Rebel got attacked with the chair as well. The ladies fought over the barricade into the crowd of wrestlers. At some point, Rosa got busted open. And then Britt took Rosa to the top and gave her a superplex onto a stack of chairs. I wanted to say ladders and tables because they were also in the match, but they were chairs. Rebel brought in a ladder. Rosa, however, got the ladder and drop kicked the ladder into Baker, who was in the corner. Baker got busted open at this point. She was bleeding like crazy. Rosa then hit a super Death Valley driver onto a ladder, but Britt was able to come back from that, hit a curb stomp on a chair, but Rosa was able to kick out of that, and then Rebel brought in thumbtacks. Rosa, however, once again took advantage of what Rebel brought into the ring, and Rosa knocked Rebel off the apron through a table and then power bombed Baker onto the thumbtacks. However, Baker kicked out of it. Crowd would have been chanting, "Holy shit, this is awesome, fight forever," if we had the fans there. This was a pre-taped show. But yeah, if you had like a full crowd, they would have been going absolutely bonkers at this point. Probably for the whole match, quite frankly. I mean, it was a hell of a match. Baker put on the lockjaw, but Rosa managed to counter by rolling Baker onto the thumbtacks to break it, hurting herself as well, but that's the sacrifice you have to make to break the hold. And then Rosa got Baker on the apron, hit the Thunder Rosa driver off the apron through the table to score the victory in the Falls Count Anywhere match. Like I said, hell of a match here. I put on Twitter, best AEW women's match to date. I really believe it. Like, this was a pay-per-view quality match. And going back to what TGS said earlier, yes, you cannot do this match every single week. But this was the first time the women were given the main event spot on Dynamite. So this had a lot of high expectations going in. You put the women in that spot, they have to be able to deliver at the caliber of the men, and they did. They delivered in the ring. They brought the physicality that you would expect from the men's hardcore matches. And I've seen a lot of comments from people saying that this was better than the match between Omega and Moxley at Revolution. Like, I've seen a lot of comments from people. Match was fantastic. Definitely elevated both of them as far as I'm concerned. Both of them came out of this looking stronger than they did coming in. TJS said that I think the wrong person won. See, I disagree with that. I think Thunder Rosa, just as much as Baker, can be the face of AEW's women's division. Both of them can. And I think both of their stocks have risen from this match. OG Crushes with a $2 super chat says, "Give Britt the title, the iron is hot." I mean, you could, and then Thunder Rosa can challenge her at some point. Like, whatever they do, one of them should be the next champion, in my opinion. MVP Kev says, best AEW women's match. And Oofman Entertainment says the main event kicked ass. Cindy says this main event match was way better. I think she's talking about better than Omega and Moxley. Marcus Metcalf with a $5 super chat, thank you for that, says, Rosa won the match, but Britt Baker feels like the star. Again, I think both of them came out looking stronger, but thank you for the super chat, Marcus. I appreciate it. And Oofman Entertainment says both women came out bigger stars after this match. And TGS even says star-making performance. Christian says, this match in the parking lot brawl between the Best Friends and Santana and Ortiz are my favorites. For sure, this was right up there. Like, as far as like top tier AEW Dynamite main events go, the parking lot brawl is up there. The Cody match with Wardlow, the steel cage match was one of my favorites. And then this one, they all got to be up there. And Moxley losing the title to Omega. Those are the ones that stand out the most to me at this point. So overall, I mean, I think up until the end, Dynamite was pretty average, but the main event was amazing. So the main event bumped it up for me. I'm giving the show a B+ this week, thanks in part to the main event, which really brought up the show a lot. Main event, absolutely worth checking out. Go out of your way to see it if you haven't already. I'm sure it'll be on AEW's YouTube channel at some point, maybe tomorrow or tonight, whenever. Nick Lavin with an A-, Power Packers 90, and Marcus with an A, as does Daniel, given an A, and Lewis. MVP Kev with a B+, TJS with a C, Christian with an A+, Oofman Entertainment with a B, Hamp with an A, Michael Wayne with a B. So a lot of positive feedback from people regarding Dynamite. And Ron says they already posted the match. So there you go. Because it was a tape show, they already got it ready to go. So yeah, if you head over to AEW's YouTube channel, you can check out that match. And definitely, I think it's worth the 5 minutes of your time. I mean, really try to watch the whole match if you can find it. Match was excellent. All right, so let's talk a little bit about NXT real quick. I'm not going to recap the whole show, but I'll talk about some of the highlights. A lot of build-up towards Stand and Deliver, the 2-night NXT TakeOver event coming up WrestleMania week. Balor kicked off the show and said that he's beaten everybody. Only one person remains, and that is Karrion Kross. His time is up. But then Kross appeared and said that they need to know, the people need to know who the real champion is. And Balor said Kross looks the part, talks the part, but doesn't have what it takes to beat him. And then we had the tag team champions, Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan, come out, and a tag team title match was set up for the main event. We had the return of Jordan Devlin, the Cruiserweight champion, and they had Santos Escobar as the interim champion because of the pandemic. And now that Devlin is back, there is going to be a unification match, champion versus champion, to determine the undisputed Cruiserweight champion. We also had the return of Walter. Walter is back, again, gone because of the pandemic, and he confronted Tommaso Ciampa. And that match is going to be awesome. I am really looking forward to that one. The only thing is, Ciampa needs to go back to shaving the head or cut his beard or something. I was shocked. I looked it up because I wasn't sure his age. He's 35. He's 3 years younger than me. And he looks like he's 60. He looks like a 60-year-old guy who's in great physical shape. Like, he's got to change up his look. He really looks like an old man with his hair grown out like that and the gray hairs and everything. He's got to change that look up, man. But other than that, like, Walter and Ciampa, take my money. That is going to be a killer match at TakeOver. Really looking forward to that one. Maybe Ciampa wins the NXT UK title and goes over there for a while, since he seems to have no intentions on going to the main roster. We had Io Shirai with a contract for a match against Raquel Gonzalez, but backstage Dakota Kai wanted a tag team match, wants to keep the tag team going, so it looks like we're getting a tease of a split between Dakota and Raquel. And LA Knight made his debut. Bronson Reed, I guess, is going to feud with him. Bronson Reed tried to distract him by taking the jacket and ripping it up, destroying it, but LA Knight was still able to pick up the win. We had the Adam Cole Kyle O'Reilly feud continued to escalate. And in the main event segment, Finn Balor drop-kicked one of the guys. It was either Lorcan or Birch, not sure which one. One of them got knocked down into Scarlet, and it was an accident, of course, but Karrion Kross was not amused with Finn Balor. He attacked Balor, and that led to the champs retaining their titles. And then afterwards, Kross continued to beat the holy crap out of Finn Balor to set up their match. Steve-O in the chat room says Tomasa grandpa. Pretty much at this point. He looks like a really fit grandpa at this point. That's the best way to describe him. Gary says, honestly, this NXT show was an absolute snooze fest. Wasn't feeling this show at all. I understand the card had to change due to circumstances, but man, this was boring. So who was missing from this show? I know there was the story about the COVID outbreak. And the only person, like, off the top of my head that was noticeable, that was missing, was Gargano. And I guess Candice, too. Who else was missing from this show? Let me know in the chat room that is on every week. Because keep in mind, I'm not following it closely every week. So I'm not sure, like, who's on regularly, who was not there this week. Let me know in the chat room anybody who you thought was conspicuous by their absence on this show. The only one I did not catch was Gargano as far as like the big stars in NXT go. And if I'm missing somebody significant who was there, well, I apologize for that. TJS says, I cannot think of anyone. I mean, yeah, all the champs were there. And, you know, a lot of the key matches, the people were there for that. So, looking forward to TakeOver, though. They got some good build-up for that. Whether you liked the show or not, TakeOver will be an awesome show. I'm really looking forward to that Walter versus Ciampa match. That could be a match of the year candidate. I think that very well could steal the show. So anyways, guys, that's all I got to say about NXT and AEW for tonight. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the latest wrestling news and rumors. And if you're getting WrestleMania tickets, good luck to you getting tickets. Make sure you stay safe if you go. Oh, and TJS about Booker T, his comments. I see where he's coming from. He was in TNA. Basically, Booker T said that AEW is starting to come off like WCW, and not necessarily in a bad way, but, you know, they're bringing in stars from WWE, and people have been comparing AEW to TNA, and I always felt like AEW had a similar vibe to WCW. I mean, they got a lot of the same people that worked for WCW, that worked for TNA, that are now working in AEW, so it is going to have that feeling. And I think the key for AEW is they got to build new stars. They got to build somebody who's going to be a major superstar for the next 10, 15 years. Like, who's going to be that John Cena? Who's going to be that mainstream superstar? The problem with AEW is they will never get past being a niche promotion if they're just catering to the diehards. You know, that's what NXT has been doing for so long. They cater to the hardcore fans, which is most of the people watching this video. But if AEW is ever going to get mainstream, they got to have a mainstream superstar. And you're not going to do that by bringing in Christian or The Big Show or even Moxley. I mean, Moxley was a good score for AEW because WWE really wanted him to stay, and he still had a lot to prove. But yeah, AEW's got to be really careful about not becoming WCW and AEW or TNA in the sense of having all those past names coming in and taking the top spots and relying on those guys to bring in the numbers. You know, that's only going to get them so far. So, as Gary says, as long as the legends are there to help the young talent, then that's a positive. But will that really happen or not? Will the young talent actually become something special. That remains to be seen. So on that note, guys, enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks again. Stay positive, but not COVID positive. And I will see you guys next time.